Qur'an. Chapter 109, Surah Al-Kafirun, Nonbelievers, by Sayyid Qutb. Translation by Muhammad Al-Amrani. In the name of God, the most compassionate, the most merciful, say, O non-believers, I do not worship what you worship, nor do you worship what I worship, and never will I worship what you have worshipped, nor will you worship what I worship. To you be your way, and to me mine. The Arabs did not outright deny God, yet they were far from truly understanding him as he had revealed himself as one, absolute. They mixed their worship of him with the veneration of idols, symbols of their ancestors, the righteous or the great, or of angels whom they falsely claimed as God's daughters, attributing kinship between him and the unseen. At times they forgot the symbolism and worshipped these idols directly, under the pretense that they would bring them closer to God, as the Qur'an recounts. We worship them only so they may bring us nearer to God. The Qur'an tells us that they acknowledged God as the creator of the heavens and the earth, the one who controls the sun and the moon, the one who sends down rain from the sky to revive the earth. As it says in Surah Al-Ankabut, if you ask them who created the heavens and the earth and subjected the sun and the moon, they will surely say, God. And if you ask them who sends down rain from the sky, reviving the earth after its death, they will surely say, God. They even swore by God, saying, by God, and in their prayers they invoked him, saying, O God. But despite their belief in God, their polytheism corrupted their perception, just as it tainted their traditions and rituals. They assigned a portion of their crops and livestock to their idols, and another to God, even sacrificing their children at times in dedication to these false deities. The Qur'an describes this in Surah Al-An'am, and they set aside a portion of what God has produced in crops and livestock, saying, this is for God, as they claim, and this is for our partners. But what is for their partners never reaches God, while what is for God reaches their partners. How ill they judge! And in this way the partners of many of the idolaters have made the killing of their children appear desirable to them, in order to lead them to ruin and to confuse them in their faith. If God had willed, they would not have done so, so leave them to their fabrications. And they say, these cattle and crops are forbidden. None may eat them except whom we will, by their claim. And some livestock are forbidden to be ridden, and some upon which they do not pronounce the name of God, falsely attributing it to him. He will repay them for what they invented. And they say, what is in the wombs of these cattle is exclusively for our males and forbidden to our wives, but if it is stillborn, they share in it. He will punish them for their false attributions. He is all-wise, all-knowing. They are losers who, in their ignorance, kill their own children and forbid what God has provided them, falsely attributing it to God. They have gone astray and are not guided. They considered themselves followers of Abraham's faith and believed they were more rightly guided than the people of the book, who lived among them in the Arabian Peninsula. For the Jews said Ezra is the Son of God, and the Christians said the Messiah is the Son of God, but they worshipped angels and jinn, claiming their closeness to God, and so they deemed themselves more rightly guided. They believed that the angels' and jinn's kinship with God was closer than that of Ezra or Jesus. But all this was still polytheism, for in idolatry there is no choice or hierarchy. Yet they believed themselves on a straighter path. So when Muhammad, peace be upon him, came to them saying that his faith was the true religion of Abraham, they retorted, we are already on the religion of Abraham, so why should we abandon our ways and follow Muhammad? At the same time, they attempted to find a middle ground with the Prophet, offering that he worship their gods in exchange for their worship of his God. They proposed that he cease to criticize their idols and practices, offering him power and influence in return. Perhaps their mixed beliefs, their recognition of God alongside their worship of other deities, led them to feel that the distance between them and Muhammad was not so great, that an agreement could be reached by dividing the land and meeting halfway, with some personal concessions. To dispel this delusion and to decisively sever any such compromise, to make clear the absolute distinction between worship and worship, path and path, worldview and worldview, this surah was revealed with its uncompromising tone, its emphatic repetition, to end all debate, to cut off all negotiation, and to forever distinguish between monotheism and polytheism, setting the markers clear, beyond all bargaining or dispute. Say, O non-believers, I do not worship what you worship, nor do you worship what I worship, and never will I worship what you have worshipped, nor will you worship what I worship. To you be your way, and to me mine. Negation after negation, assertion after assertion, emphasis upon emphasis, with all the forms of denial, affirmation, and reinforcement. Say, for it is the divine command, indicating that this matter of faith is God's alone. Muhammad has no say in it. It is God who commands, and none can turn back his command, none can challenge his judgment. Say, O non-believers. He called them by their true name, described them by their true nature. They are not on the path of faith. They are unbelievers. There is no meeting point between you and them. Thus, the opening of the surah, with its address, evokes the reality of a separation that admits no hope of reunion. I do not worship what you worship, for my worship is different from yours, and my God is different from your gods. Nor do you worship what I worship, for your worship is not my worship, and your gods are not my God. And never will I worship what you have worshipped, a reinforcement of the first statement, in the form of an emphatic declaration, which indicates the permanence and constancy of this distinction. Nor will you worship what I worship. A repetition to emphasize the second statement so that no doubt remains, no uncertainty persists, no room for doubt or compromise after this emphatic repetition, with all the means of reiteration and confirmation. Then comes the summation of the fundamental divide, a separation that admits no bridging, a divergence that allows no resemblance, a split that permits no connection, and a distinction that admits no confusion. To you be your way, and to me mine. I stand here, and you stand there, and there is no crossing, no bridge, no path between us. A complete and comprehensive separation, a clear and precise distinction. This separation was necessary to clarify the essential total difference that makes any meeting halfway impossible. The difference lies in the very essence of belief, the core of the world view, the foundation of the way, and the nature of the path. Monotheism is one way, polytheism is another, and they do not meet. Monotheism is a way that leads humanity, along with all existence, to God alone, with no partner. It determines the source from which humans derive their faith, their law, their values and standards, their manners and ethics, their entire view of life and existence. This source is God, God alone, with no partner. Thus, life is based entirely on this foundation, untainted by polytheism in any of its visible or hidden forms. This separation, with all its clarity, is essential for the caller to faith, and essential for those being called. The perceptions of Jahiliyyah blend with the perceptions of faith, especially in communities that once knew the creed, but then deviated from it. Such communities are often the hardest to bring to pure faith, harder than those who never knew the creed at all, for they believe themselves to be on the right path, even as their deviations grow more complex and convoluted. The mixing of their beliefs and actions, the blending of the good with the corrupt, may tempt the caller himself into the hope of attracting them by acknowledging the good and attempting to correct the bad. But this temptation is exceedingly dangerous, for Jahiliyyah is Jahiliyyah and Islam is Islam. The gap between them is wide. The only way forward is to leave Jahiliyyah entirely and embrace Islam completely. It is to shed Jahiliyyah in all its aspects and migrate to Islam in all its aspects. The first step on this path is the caller's clear sense of distinctness, a feeling of complete separation from Jahiliyyah in thought, method and action. This separation does not allow for meeting halfway, a separation that makes collaboration impossible unless the people of Jahiliyyah fully abandon their Jahiliyyah and move entirely to Islam. There is no patching, no half measures, no meeting halfway, no matter how much Jahiliyyah may disguise itself as Islam or claim its name. The distinctness of this image in the caller's consciousness is the foundation stone. The sense that he is something different from them. They have their way and he has his way. They have their path and he has his path. He cannot follow them even a single step on their way. His task is to lead them to his way without compromise, without giving up even a little of his faith or much. Otherwise, it is complete dissociation, total separation and explicit decisiveness. To you be your way and to me mine. How greatly today's callers to Islam need this dissociation, this separation, this decisiveness. How greatly they need to feel that they are establishing Islam anew in a corrupted, deviant environment, among people who once knew the creed but whose hearts have hardened over time, many of them now rebellious. That there are no half measures, no meeting halfway, no fixing flaws, no patching methods. It is the call to Islam as it was first made, a call amid Jahiliyyah with complete distinction from Jahiliyyah. To you be your way and to me mine. And this is my faith, pure monotheism that derives all its concepts, values, faith and law entirely from God, without partner, in all aspects of life and behavior. Without this separation there will remain confusion, compromise, ambiguity and patchwork. The call to Islam cannot stand on such weak, compromised or diluted foundations. It stands only on decisiveness, clarity, courage and transparency. And this is the first path of the call. To you be your way and to me mine.